Seth David from the world-famous Nerd Enterprises Incorporated, bringing to you a special screencast. This time we're going to give you 3 tips for getting your QuickBooks information better organized. Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call me right now at 866-945-8070 for information about private trainings. We record the live session so you can review it as often as you like afterwards. That includes everything that happened on screen, video, as well as the audio integrated, so you can get a complete replay of our entire session online. Give us a call, 866-945-8070. Okay, so we're looking at 3 tips for how to get more organized in your QuickBooks file. 3 tips. We're talking about 3 things. We're going to talk about merging accounts, we're going to talk about creating sub-accounts, and we're going to talk about memorized transactions. So if you already know all those things, if you're already an expert in those 3 things, then go away. No, I'm just kidding. Stay tuned anyway, because you might see a perspective that I'm offering that you haven't seen before. You might see a variation on the theme that you weren't aware of. You might say, oh, hey, I didn't know you could do that. So let's get into it. We're going to talk about this. Here's an example of something on the profit and loss that I see a lot of when I review people's books. We have computer and internet expenses and then computer services. Now, this looks fine enough because you're looking at a very simple chart of accounts right now. But as I mentioned in the blog post, what happens is over time, especially when we've had a company file going for a few years, the chart of accounts can get quite long because we just start adding accounts for things when reality is we already have accounts and we forget that I don't need an account for every single different transaction type, because a lot of times I can create one broad stroke account, and within that I can have a lot of different kinds of transactions that are related, because I can always go into that account and report on it and then sort by or total by payee, and that helps me describe what I've got going on within that account. So a lot of times I see opportunities to take a series of accounts and consolidate them or group them so that you have sub-accounts, and that's the other thing we're going to talk about. In fact, first we're going to look at the sub-accounts, because then we're going to look at merging them as an alternative to having sub-accounts. So for example, here I've got the computer and internet expenses and computer services, and they really mean the same thing. In fact, a lot of times I've seen what I set up here as an example of is, you know, it's checks to the same payee, nerd power for computer services, and then we have computer and internet expenses, another check to the same provider. It's just that one time somebody saw this and another time they didn't see it or didn't recognize that this was the right account, so they created another one. So the thing we want to do on something like that is we want to make it into a sub-account structure, right? So that way maybe we can have, you know, what do you call it? You know, we can have different types of computer and internet expenses within computer and internet expenses. So we might have, you know, one thing might have been for a repair of a computer, so maybe we want repairs in there as its own category or its own subcategory. And so you can set it up like that. And here's the key. The temptation might be to say, well, computer and internet expenses really is the parent category, so let's just take computer services over here and drag it in as a sub-account. And you're going to see in 1 second why that's a bad idea. Because look what happens when I refresh this report. And I have to look at my other screen. Don't ever ask me that again. You see what it does now? It creates computer services under computer and internet expenses, and then it has computer and internet expenses other. And that's the problem with, because effectively what I did by moving this account in here was I created a situation where I had transactions posted directly to the parent account, and you never want that when you have a hierarchical structure with your accounts. You always want one clean parent account, and then all the transactions are posted to a sub somewhere. So when I refresh this after moving it back out, that fixes it. And by the way, how did I do that? I just clicked on the diamond there to the left of the account. You can click and drag it right in, and that makes it a sub account instantly. Click on the diamond again and drag it back out to change it back. The other way, of course, is I can edit the account and right here choose to make it a sub account of computer and internet expenses, and it has the same exact effect. So that's how you can quickly create a sub account. But here's the thing, I don't necessarily want to do it that way because of what you just saw, because it creates that other category. So what I'm going to do is, let's say this is really for the purchase of computer equipment. Let's edit this account and call it computer equipment. And this would be for small equipment that we don't necessarily want to book as a fixed asset. Then I'm going to create a brand new account, expense account, call it Computer and Internet Expenses. That way, with the brand new account, obviously nothing's been posted there yet. So once I've got that in place, and then I want to resort my list here, then I move in computer equipment and I move in computer services. Now we have it nice and clean. I have computer and internet expenses. Within that, I've got computer equipment and computer services. And I could change this obviously to whatever you want. Now let's say I realize, you know what? I don't need all these subcategories. I just one account called computer and internet expenses is really all I need for my P&L. No problem. Let's drag these back out. And now we're getting into part 2, which is merging accounts. So everything can be computer and internet expenses. So let's take my computer equipment. The way I do this, just to make it easy, is whichever name you choose you want to stick with, that's the surviving account. Everything else is the losing account, right? We're going to lose those names and everything's going to get merged into the surviving one. So what I do is I choose the surviving account and I edit the account just so I can grab the name in its exact form. Because if you have so much as one variation on the spelling of a word, it's not going to merge properly. So I copy that name to the clipboard. Then I go to losing account number 1, edit the account, Control V to paste it in, save and close. Name's already being used. Would I like to merge them? You bet I would. And then I can come over here to computer services, edit the account, still got the name on the clipboard, right? Control V to paste it in, save and close. Yes, I would love to merge them. Now I have one account called computer and internet expenses, and boom, I'm done. So that's how we merge accounts. Now, let's go in here for a minute. And let's say that one of these was to a different company, computer repair people, Inc. Quick add them, vendor, okay. Boom. So now what I can do is I can go into this account and I can total it by payee. This way, when I have a lot of transactions in this account, it becomes much clearer to see how much I'm spending and where and on what. And if I want to, if I realize that one of the payees really represents an expense that I do want to carve out, then I can go back, create the parent account, create the subs, and move those transactions over into the, into the new, more specific account description, for lack of a better way to describe it. But let's say for some reason I want to put particular emphasis on what I'm spending on computers and computer repairs and generally computer and internet expenses. That brings up part number 3, our third tip for keeping our information more organized, right? Because I showed you how to set up the sub-account structure. I showed you how to merge the accounts. Now, what we want to do is we want to start memorizing reports that give us information that's important to us. So the first thing is you've probably played around with this already if you've been using QuickBooks for a while. There's a whole report center. I don't like the report center as much as I like simply going to the memorize reports list. And the reason is nothing other than functionality. This, to me, is much faster and much easier to work with. The report center looks pretty. It's got a nice graphic interface. But to me, if I'm moving at 1,000 miles an hour like I usually am, I don't have time to look at something pretty. I just want something that works and works fast. And the report center, you'll probably notice if you go to click on it, it takes a minute. It's got to load because of the nice graphics. I'm guessing what slows it down. Either way, I prefer to use the memorize report list because it's fast and it's functional, and I can quickly and easily customize it to get things set up the way I like. For example, let's come down here to memorize report, and I want to create a new group, and we're going to call this Seth's Reports, because that to me is meaningful. That to me says these are the reports that I care about. These are the reports that I want to look at regularly. And then I'm going to come over to the report that I like, that I want to keep here, I don't want to have to keep remembering to double click this and total it by payee. I'd rather just have it fixed, so that I can just, in 2 clicks, run it. Well, oftentimes, especially if my report is based on an account, what I want to do is let me slow down here for a minute. I'm kind of going fast while I'm talking. I come over here once I've created the report, and I want to go to Customize Report. Then I come over to my filters, and I can go right into my account filter just to get the name. And I just want to select it, and then copy it. Make sure it's all highlighted. Then I come over to my header and footer so that instead of transaction detail by account, I paste in the account name upon which this report is based. And then I click OK, and it puts the name Computer and Internet Expenses in the report. That gives it a much more meaningful name. Now all I need to do is memorize this report by clicking Memorize, and QuickBooks will prompt me. and I want to save it in the group that I just created called Seth's Reports. And I click OK, and notice it appears right there instantly, so that the next time I run this, I double click it and it shows me my report very quickly. So you basically want to take what I've just shown you here and apply this to any kind of report that you run that you feel gives you information that's important that you want to look at. You know, one thing I often do is I create the monthly profit and loss. I don't have enough data in here to show you anything meaningful, but I've done a million videos that show you how to do the monthly profit and loss. You just run a standard P&L and total it by month. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I'll call that profit and loss monthly, and I'll save that in my Seth's Reports groups. And that way I can, because that's a report I definitely want to look at very often, each month at the very least. So what you can do is you can create the reports you like and then save them here in Memorize Reports. One last thing we want to do, this is kind of a bonus tip, is I want to add that to my icon bar. I want to add the Memorize Report list to the icon bar. I don't want to add each individual report to the icon bar because I only have so much space here. But the list I definitely would like to add in. So I just, while the list is live, I click View and then Add Memorize Report List to icon bar. Come over here and there's an icon sort of near the bottom that I like to use for this, which is right here. I click OK. Boom. So now the next time I want to run this, and this is what I'm talking about, it's all about saving time to increase efficiency so you can spend more time focusing on the things that are really important, like growing your business. So I click Memorize Reports, Computer and Internet Expenses, boom. So basically in one single click and a double click, 3 clicks total, I've got my report up here, rather than having to recreate this every time. And believe me, this thing on its own, it might not seem like it's that big of a deal that it's saving you that much time, but when you have 9 or 10 reports that you like to look at on a frequent basis, this is going to save you a ton of time. And the whole idea here is to get our small businesses to run as efficiently as possible so we can take down the big guy. We want to beat out the big corporations by growing our small businesses so we can offer people better service at a lower price. And it all comes down to being more efficient, to doing things efficiently. And these little tips, these kind of little things, and when you add them all up collectively, will make a huge difference in terms of the efficiency with which you can run your business. So as always, I hope you found this helpful. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, post your comments. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web. This has been a special presentation brought to you by Nerd Enterprises Incorporated on 3 tips for getting your QuickBooks information better organized. Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call me right now at 866-945-8070 for information about private trainings. We record the live session with you so you can review it as often as you like afterwards.